Good evening, everyone. Due to State Senate bill signed into law in September, so City Council is not conducting in-person meetings for the month of November. During this time, we're continuing to offer meeting access to the public by posting meeting information and materials on the city's website at www.cityofrochester.gov/public meetings and streaming our meetings live on City 12 TV and the City Council's YouTube and Facebook pages. Coronavirus cases are rising in our area once again as we enter another holiday season impacted by COVID-19. I want to stress the importance of taking the necessary precautions to stay healthy. I encourage anyone who has not received the vaccine to discuss this with your physician and to visit monroecounty.gov/health-COVID-19 vaccine for more information. As always, continue to wear your mask in public, regardless of your vaccination status. This meeting will come to order, and I ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Gruber.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Lupian.
Here.
Councilmember Melendez.
Here.
Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Pio.
Here.
Vice President Lightfoot.
Present, ma'am.
President Scott.
Here.
Thank you.
I would like to ask council to join me in a moment of silence. Councilmember Gruber, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the minutes by Councilmember Cleo.
I have it ready, sorry. All right. Oh. Where'd it go? Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting on October 12th, 2021 be approved as published in the official sheets of the proceedings.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record. The following documents are hereby directed to be received and filed. The mayor submits the following: quarterly reports, administrative cancellation or refund of erroneous taxes and charges, October 2021. Delinquent receivables, June 2021.
Thank you. These documents will be received and filed. It's time for the presentation and reference of petitions and any other communications. Are there any petitions?
President,
Yes.
I need to read the disclosures from the council members.
I'm sorry, please do.
The council submits the disclosure of interest forms from Councilmember Harris on introductory number 419. That's it.
Okay. So it's still time for the presentation and reference of petitions, if there are any. Are there any petitions? There are none. Thank you. We'll now move to the reports of standing committees and action thereon. Councilmember Evans, the Finance Committee report, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. To the council, the Finance Committee recommends for adoption the following entitled legislation. Introductory number 377, a local law amending and extending the residential commercial urban exemption program. Introductory number 378, authorizing an agreement for the administration of the Grow Rochester program. Introductory number 379, appropriating funds and amending the 21-22 budget for the Kiva Rochester Small Business Loan Program. Introductory number 380, authorizing an amendatory agreement for special event production services. Introductory number 411, authorizing an agreement to support future phases of the Raise Commission mission project. And introductory number 418, authorizing an amendatory agreement to increase the maximum compensation for conflict counsel services. The Finance Committee recommends the following entitled legislation be held in committee. Introductory number 414, a resolution approving the establishment of a $15 minimum wage for all city employees. This report was respectfully submitted by Malik Evans, Lachey D. Harris, Michael A. Patterson, Willie J. Lightfoot, and Loretta C. Scott.
Thank you, Councilmember Evans. That report will be received, filed, and published, and we'll proceed with the vote. Introductory number 377, a local law amending and extending the residential commercial urban exemption program. This requires a roll call.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes, and Madam President, can I just make a comment, please?
Yes, certainly.
I know that there have been lots of conversations around this legislation. I just want to say that, you know, this is one tool in the toolbox. And for me, it would be tough for me to vote to unilaterally disarm us from using this tool sparingly. I think we can have conversations on when we use this tool, but every other city has this state law as a tool that they can use when necessary. And if Rochester was to say that we weren't going to use this, I believe that this will put us at a disadvantage. I also want to say that I don't think that by having this in our toolbox, that this precludes us from talking about, no C of O, no eviction, or any of the other important housing conversations that we've been having in this community for the past couple of years. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I would also add that one of the things that we've also attempted to do here is to add the NWB and workforce goals, which I think is extremely important, as well as the other community benefits agreements as it relates to AMI. But again, I think that this is something that can be used sparingly. If we didn't have these amendments, I definitely would not be for this legislation, but we made the amendments. But I think that we have to look at what other cities are doing as well. And we should not just unilaterally disarm from a tool that we have the ability to use sparingly, and something that I'm not advocating that we use on a regular basis, but only when the time calls for it. And with that, I vote yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Gruber.
President Scott, may I also make a comment, please? Thanks.
Yes.
I certainly do understand a lot of the concern that we heard tonight from community members and some emails we've received. And I think that the conversation has really been framed around subsidization of luxury apartments. And I fully agree that we do not, as a city, need to be subsidizing luxury apartments downtown or anywhere. I just don't think that tells the entire story of what this legislation is. It is specifically a New York State program that incentivizes and encourages the conversion of commercial properties into residential. So we also heard a lot about development without displacement. These are converting commercial properties into residential. And I would just echo what Mayor-elect Evans has said, which is that I think we could use a continually more transparent process about how this is or is not used, but it is a tool that I think is important for his administration, if they're going to want to use it, for him to be able to lay out what that looks like. And I'm certainly going to join by voting yes this month with the goal of it not being utilized to produce more luxury apartments downtown. Thank you.
Councilmember Harris. You're on mute.
I'd like to explain my vote. I'm planning to vote, actually, I'm voting yes. And I agree with my colleagues that spoke before me, Councilmember Gruber and Mayor-elect Evans. I really believe that it's important that we continue to use tools to help our city grow, but at the same time, we continue to look at items that prevent residents from being able to have the ability to have access to housing. So we will continue to look at that, and we will continue to work on making sure that we have equity for all. So with that, I vote yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Lupian.
I'm voting no, and I'd also like to make a comment.
Certainly.
From my understanding, we're not going to be able to control who gets this tax break or when we use it or how sparingly we use it, because it's automatic if the project qualifies, if I'm not mistaken, Commissioner Kirkmeyer.
If your question is, would the project come before council for approval, you are correct, it would not.
And what ability would the administration have to direct or control these projects?
So the administration's control, it lies within the review of the pilot review committee. So currently the Q projects are automatically approved. They don't even have to come through the pilot review committee. Going forward, they would have to.
And what, could you help me understand how the 20% set aside for 60% AMI, how would that get enforced?
It would be enforced through that process. In other words, if they're not meeting those qualifications, then the review committee would not approve the pilot.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I'm just glad to get that cleared up because I think some of the community and myself didn't think we'd have the ability to control it, and that makes me feel a little bit better. But I will say that I've heard both of my campaigns resoundingly, people from this community saying they do not want to subsidize luxury development. And that is, in my opinion, what this does. Even though it's a state program, it's still depriving the city of tax money for 8 years, and then stepping up 20% every year until the full taxes at 12 years are being paid. And I think that I don't believe that the data is there, even though Commissioner and Mike Zazera provided the information for one project. I still have questions on whether or not these projects would get built anyways, given that the market has changed so much in the last even 5 years in this city. I also know that the tenant union and many others have been talking to us about this tax exemption for more than a year. And for this to come up so quickly without really the opportunity for us as a council to even really discuss it very much, I really wish that we'd vote no and at least have more of an opportunity to talk about it and bring it up at a future council meeting. So with that said, I'm voting no. Thank you.
Councilmember Melendez.
Yes, I'd also like to explain my vote. Thought a lot about this one. I've heard a lot of feedback from the community. The one thing I hope we can do moving forward is that we need to have more community engagement, I believe, around some of these issues. And I'm hoping that if, when this comes back up, because it inevitably will come back up, that we have a process for ensuring that we have some more public dialogue around this, and also expanding different opportunities in the city for housing and increasing housing options. But with that, I do vote yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Patterson.
Commissioner Kirkmeyer, quick question for you. For these 60% AMI units, how long will they be required to be at 60% AMI?
For the duration of the pilot.
Okay, thank you. And on that note, I still vote yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Cleo.
Yes, I just want to give out some information here. I want to speak to future real estate investors and business owners. Look to where the government is incentivizing investment by granting tax breaks and use them to your own advantage. Everyone is capable of using these to their own advantage. My vote is yes.
Thank you. Vice President Lightfoot.
Thank you. And I enjoyed this conversation. I think that it can lead to more conversations, especially around housing, because, my biggest issue, and I've had this conversation with multiple people here that were, my colleagues and others in the community, especially in the barbershop, the real way of us getting out of poverty and the real way for us decreasing the decline or that gap, the wealth gap between especially people of color and others is home ownership. And those are the kind of conversations that we have to have. And I'm hoping that we lead to those type of conversations, to be realistic. But I do believe that this is a tool in the toolbox to help us do some things. And I agree with my colleagues as well as Councilmember Pale by saying everyone can use these tools, and so I think we have to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that the process is open and equitable, as Councilmember Harris has said. But I'll be voting yes.
Thank you. President Scott?
Yes, it seems that one of the most pressing issues related to this is one that it's a challenge and not sure that we're up to it. And that's communication and education. Because regardless of how we explain this tool, it's kind of complex. It's not something you can put on a bumper sticker, and it tends to be offensive because people automatically go to you're giving rich people tax breaks. And there's not a way to explain neatly the advantage and benefit to the general public, for the common good. So the challenge is to help people understand better, to use it better, and be thoroughly transparent, of course, but even in so doing, we have to have a way to communicate that to folk. If somebody could develop a bumper sticker that tells the whole thing, we'd be in really good shape, but I don't think they will. I will vote yes on this.
Thank you. The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 into the record with Councilmember Lupian voting no.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Introductory number 378, authorizing an agreement for the administration of the Grow Rochester program. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Clerk will
9-0.
enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 379, legislation appropriating funds and amending the 2021-22 budget for the Kiva Rochester Small Business Loan Program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 380, legislation authorizing an amendatory agreement for special event production services. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 411, legislation authorizing an agreement to support future phases of the Raise Commission mission. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 418, legislation authorizing an amendatory agreement to increase the maximum compensation for conflict counsel services. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Councilmember Patterson, the Neighborhood and Business Development Committee report, please.
Thank you, Madam President. To the council, the Neighborhood and Business Development Committee recommends for adoption the following entitled legislation. Introductory number 381, authorizing the sale of real estate. Introductory number 382, authorizing the sale of real estate. Introductory number 383, authorizing a grant agreement and the appropriation of grant funds for environmental investigation and cleanup activities in the Bullseye area. Introductory number 384, authorizing a term agreement for relocation services. Introductory number 385, authorizing a mandatory agreement related to the City Rise grant program. Introductory number 386, appropriating emergency solution grant coronavirus funds and authorizing agreements for additional services for the homeless and those at risk of homelessness. Introductory number 387, appropriating American Rescue Plan Act funds and amending the 2021-22 budget for the Targeted Business Revitalization Grant Program. Introductory number 390, approving appointments to the Rochester Preservation Board. Introductory number 415, appropriating American Rescue Plan Act funds, amending the 2021-22 budget, and authorizing agreements for the Senior Meals Program. Yay! Introductory number 416, appropriating American Rescue Plan Act funds, amending the 2021-22 budget, and authorizing agreements for the Housing Rehabilitation and Emergency Assistance to Seniors Homeowners Program. That one gets a yay too. Introductory number 417, appropriating American Rescue Plan Act funds, amending the 2021-22 budget, and authorizing agreements for the owner-occupied roof program. Yep, that gets a yay. The Neighborhood and Business Development Committee recommends for consideration the following entitled legislation. Introductory number 388, amending the zoning map by changing the zoning classification of 35 Shelburne Road and 20 Elmerson Road. Introductory number 389, amending the zoning map by changing the zoning classification of 36 Council Street. This report is respectfully submitted by Council members Mary Lupian, Miguel Melendez Jr., Council Vice President Willie J. Lightfoot, Council President Loretta C. Scott, and myself, Michael A. Patterson.
Thank you, Councilmember Patterson. That report will be received, filed, and published, and we'll proceed with the vote. Introductory number 381, legislation authorizing the sale of real estate. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 382, legislation authorizing the sale of real estate. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 8-1.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 into the record with Councilmember Lupian voting no.
Introductory number 383, legislation authorizing a grant agreement and the appropriation of grant funds for environmental investigation and cleanup activities in the Bullseye area. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 384, legislation authorizing a term agreement for relocation services. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 385, legislation authorizing an amendatory agreement related to the city's RISE grant program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 8-1.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 into the record with Councilmember Lupian voting no.
Introductory number 386, legislation appropriating emergency solutions grant coronavirus funds and authorizing agreements for additional services for the homeless and those at risk of homelessness. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 387, legislation appropriating American Rescue Plan Act funds and amending the 2021-22 budget for the Targeted Business Revitalization Grant Program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 388, amending the zoning map by changing the zoning classification of 35 Shelburne Road and 20 Elmerston Road. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, was
The
that?
roll call, please.
Roll
Okay.
call.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Nay.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Lupian,
No.
Councilmember Melendez,
No.
Councilmember Patterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pio,
Nay.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Yes.
President Scott.
I know we're in the middle of the vote, but would somebody just briefly tell me that there was a reason other than putting in a Taco Bell that perhaps will need to be rezoned? Commissioner Kirkmeyer,
Yes, what's your question, President Scott?
that I understood that parcel would have to be rezoned to basically use it for just about anything.
for any commercial purposes, it would have to be rezoned, and the zoning would align with what's on Mount Hope Avenue. Let me just add additionally that, this is not the end of the process. This just gets the parcels situated for consideration for the proposed use. They still would have to go through site plan approval, and they would have to get a special permit through the City Planning Commission if they wanted to do the project as proposed.
Okay, yes,
Thank you. That's 5-4.
okay. Motion carries 5-4.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 5-4 into the record with council members Gruber, Lupian, Melendez, and Pio voting no.
Introductory number 389, legislation amending the zoning map by changing the zoning classification of 36 Council Street. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 8-1.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 into the record with council member Lupian voting no.
Introductory number 390, legislation approving appointments to the Rochester Preservation Board. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 415, legislation appropriating American Rescue Plan Act funds, amending the 2021-22 budget, and authorizing agreements for the senior meals program. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 416, legislation appropriating American Rescue Plan Act funds, amending the 2021-22 budget, and authorizing agreements for the housing rehabilitation and the emergency assistance to seniors homeowners programs. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 417, legislation appropriating American Rescue Plan Act funds, amending the 2021-22 budget, and authorizing agreements for the owner occupant roof program. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Councilmember Gruber, the Parks and Public Works Committee report, please.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me just get situated here. To the council, the Parks and Public Works Committee recommends for adoption the following entitled legislation. Introduction number 391, authorizing agreements and funding for the Aqueduct, Reimagined, and Riverfront Promenades project. Introduction number 392, authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance of the state aid program eligible costs of a capital project and appropriating funds therefore in relation to the Aqueduct, Reimagined, Riverfront Promenade. Introduction number 393, authorizing funding and agreements for the Main Street Streetscape and Pedestrian Wayfinding Phase 2 project. Introduction number 397, bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $400,000 bonds of said city to finance the milling and resurfacing project for Brooks Avenue, Genesee Park Boulevard to Genesee Street, Jefferson Avenue, Champlain Street to West Main Street, and Thurston Road, Genesee Park Boulevard to Arnett Boulevard. Introduction number 398, authorizing an agreement for the milling and resurfacing project for Brooks Avenue, Genesee Park Boulevard to Genesee Street, Jefferson Avenue, Champlain Street to West Main Street, and Thurston Road, Genesee Park Boulevard to Arnett Boulevard. Introduction number 399, appropriating funds and amending ordinance number 2021-241 relating to the 2023 Preventative Maintenance Group 1 project. Introduction number 400, appropriating funds and amending ordinance number 2021-83 relating to the 2021 Preventative Maintenance Northwest Group 12 project. Introduction number 401, authorizing applications to and agreements with New York State for funding of water quality infrastructure improvements. The Parks and Public Works Committee recommends for consideration the following entitled legislation. Introduction number 394, authorizing a change in traffic flow on Bradford Street. Introduction number 395, authorizing a change in traffic flow on Manila Street. And Parks and Public Works Committee recommended to hold introduction number 396, but we'll come back to that momentarily. This report was respectfully committed by Councilmember Malik Evans, Councilmember Jose Pio, Council Vice President Willie Lightfoot, Council President Loretta Scott, and myself, Councilmember Mitch Gruber.
Thank you, Councilmember Gruber. That report will be received, filed, and published, and will proceed with the vote. Introductory number 391, legislation authorizing agreements and funding for the Aqueduct, Reimagined, and Riverfront Promenade project. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 8-1.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 into the record with Councilmember Lupian voting no.
Introductory number 392, legislation authorizing the implementation and funding of the state aid program eligible costs of a capital project and appropriating funds related to the Aqueduct, Reimagined, Riverfront Promenade. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 8-1.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 into the record with Councilmember Lupian voting no.
Introductory number 393, legislation authorizing funding and agreements for the Main Street Streetscape and Pedestrian Wayfinding Phase 2 project. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 394, legislation authorizing a change in traffic flow on Bradford Street. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 395, legislation authorizing a change in traffic flow on Manila Street. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 397 is a bond ordinance authorizing $400,000 bonds to finance the milling and resurfacing project for Brooks Avenue, Jefferson Avenue, and Thurston Road. This requires a roll call.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Lupian,
Yes.
Councilmember Melendez,
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pio,
Yes.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Yes.
President Scott.
Yes. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 398, legislation authorizing an agreement for the milling and resurfacing project for Brooks Avenue, Jefferson Avenue, and Thurston Road. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 399, legislation appropriating funds and amending ordinance number 2021-241 relating to the 2023 Preventive Maintenance Group 1 project. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 400, legislation appropriating funds and amending ordinance number 2021-83 relating to the 2021 Preventive Maintenance Group 12 project. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 401, legislation authorizing applications to and agreements with New York State for funding of water quality infrastructure improvements. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Chairperson Gruber, do you have a motion related to introductory number 396, legislation authorizing the alteration of pavement widths relating to the milling and resurfacing project for Chestnut Street, East Avenue, and North Goodman Street.
I do, President Scott. Thank you. And I want to thank Commissioner Jones and his team for the thorough answer and the continued work towards more road diets to make people safer. And so with that, I'd like to make a motion to discharge introduction number 396 from committee.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. So let's vote on discharging introductory number 396 from committee. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record for discharging introductory number 396.
Now let's vote on introductory number 396. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Vice President Lightfoot, Public Safety, Recreation, and Human Services Committee report, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Madam President. The Public Safety, Recreation, and Human Service Committee recommends for adoption the following entitled legislation. Introductory number 402, authorizing agreement for athletic skills development, academic support services. Introductory number 403, appropriating funds for the Mural Arts Project. Introductory number 404, authorizing an agreement and funding for amending the 2021-2022 budget for the Comprehensive Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program. Introductory number 405, authorizing a grant agreement and amending the 2021-2022 budget for the motor vehicle theft and insurance fraud prevention. Introductory number 406, appropriating funds and amending the 2021-2022 budget for the Office of Business Intelligence. Introduction number 407, authorizing a grant agreement and amending the 2021-2022 budget for the 2021 State Homeland Security Program. Introduction number 408, authorizing an agreement for electronic patient care reporting software license and support. Introduction number 409, appropriating federal forfeiture funds and amending the 2021-2022 budget in relation to investigating narcotics trafficking. Introductory number 410, authorizing an agreement to create a comprehensive language access plan for the Police Accountability Board. Introductory number 412, authorizing an agreement to create an awareness and complaint-related communication implementation project for the Police Accountability Board. Introductory number 413, authorizing agreement to create a comprehensive program of onboard and training for the Police Accountability Board. The Public Safety, Recreation, and Human Service Committee recommends the following titled legislation to be held in committee. Introductory number 419, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement for the Rochester City School District related to overtime police services. This was respectfully submitted by Councilmember Mitch Gruber, Councilwoman LaShaye D. Harris, Councilmember Jose Pio, Council President Loretta C. Scott, and myself, Council Vice President Willie J. Lightfoot.
Thank you, Vice President Lightfoot. That report will be received, filed, and published, and we'll proceed with the vote. Introductory number 402, legislation authorizing an agreement for athletic skill development and academic support services. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 403, legislation appropriating funds for the Mural Arts Project. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 404, legislation authorizing agreements and funding and amending the 2021-22 budget for the Comprehensive Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 405, legislation authorizing a grant agreement and amending the 2021 budget for motor vehicle theft and insurance fraud prevention. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Nay.
Motion carries 8-1.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 into the record with Councilmember Lupian voting no.
Introductory number 406, legislation appropriating funds and amending the 2021 budget for the Office of Business Intelligence. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 407, legislation authorizing a grant agreement and amending the 2021-22 budget for the 2021 State Homeland Security Program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 408, legislation authorizing an agreement for electronic patient care reporting software license and support. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 409, legislation appropriating federal forfeiture funds and amending the 2021-22 budget in relation to investigating narcotics trafficking. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Say nay.
Nay.
The roll call, please.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Nay.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Lupian,
No.
Councilmember Melendez,
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson,
Absolutely.
Councilmember Pio,
Absolutely.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Yes, ma'am.
President Scott.
Yes.
Thank you. 7-2.
Motion carries 7-2.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 7-2 into the record with Councilmember Gruber and Councilmember Lupian voting no.
Introductory number 410, legislation authorizing an agreement to create a comprehensive language access plan for the PAD. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 412, legislation authorizing an agreement to create an awareness and complaint-related communications implementation project for the PAD. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 413, legislation authorizing an agreement to create a comprehensive program for onboarding and training for the PAB. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
That does conclude the city council business for this month.
Madam President,
Madam President, Madam
What?
I
President,
just,
We got one more.
we have one more that we have held in committee that I'd
Oh,
like
that's
to,
right, that's right, I'm
address.
sorry.
but
I
Madam
looked
President,
at
if you would indulge me, before we motion to move it out of committee, Madam President, I'd like to hear from our mayor and administration as to any updates concerning this particular legislation.
yes, thank you, Vice President Lightfoot. I did have an opportunity to meet with President Van White and the superintendent, along with our team and our police chief this week to talk about this legislation. I just learned while we were in this meeting that the school board did pass the legislation for this in a vote of 5 yes to 1 no. They also conducted a survey among parents and caregivers and staff that showed that 80% of parents and caregivers were in favor of the police presence outside of schools. The survey also revealed that 90% of the staff support the presence of police outside of the schools. 4,000 parents and staff members responded to the telephone and email surveys that took place over the course of 2 days. This was discussed at our last meeting with President White and Superintendent Leslie Myers Small. And, you know, President White thought that this was vindication for those that thought that parents did not want to have this type of presence outside of their schools. It's a clear understanding that they do. And from the vote today by the school board, I know that that is something that Councilmember Patterson had outlined that he wanted to see. They passed it 5-1. And so I would encourage the city council to go ahead and pass this legislation as well.
Thank you. I'm
Vice
sorry.
President Lightfoot?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Madam President.
I was just going to bring it out. Invite a motion.
Yeah, I like the motion to,
ready?
to discharge. Hold on. I like the motion to discharge 419 from committee.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor of moving 419 out of committee, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Abstain.
opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm a
Nay.
nay.
One
Motion
opposed and
carries.
one nay. You want to do a roll? Do we need
Two
to do a
nays.
roll call?
That's 7-2.
Abstention.
Abstention.
We'll do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Councilmember, okay, thank you. Councilmember Gruber,
Nay.
Councilmember Harris,
Abstain.
Councilmember Lupian,
No.
Councilmember Melendez,
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pio,
Absolutely.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Yes.
President Scott.
Yes. Motion carries 6-2 with one abstention.
And one abstention.
Okay.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 6-1 into the record with Councilmember Gruber and Councilmember Lupian voting no, and Councilmember Harris abstaining.
Thank you.
President Scott, before we vote, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Are we planning on increasing Pathways to Peace presence at dismissal and in the morning as well?
That was part of the discussion today, not just with, yesterday, not just with Pathways to Peace, but also the person in crisis team. We have, I believe it was last month, we had indicated or council had passed legislation for the Pathways to Peace team. I know that Commissioner Danielle Lyman-Torres and the superintendent's team will be meeting over the next week to develop a strategy and a plan as it pertains to expanding services on the city side, inside schools with those teams as well. They have not outlined that, but they're in the process of working together to figure out how these teams can work together with the social and emotional supports that they already have on campus. Additionally, Police Chief Smith is working with the superintendent's security team to outline different security plans, on that will basically tell us exactly what is expected of not only our police department, but also staff in the building, who they should call if there's an issue first before calling the police, making sure that the proper people are notified, because in the past, a 911 call has come in from inside the building, the administrators or as well as the SSOs have no idea that this is happening. And so wanting to make sure that there are proper safety plans and also communication with the people that are inside the building before any calls come to 911. And also that everyone understands exactly what is expected of them inside the building. So it's going to be a holistic approach. And I know that Commissioner Danielle Lyman-Torres and the superintendent's team are going to be working on that in the next couple of weeks, and they will be presenting a plan by the end of November.
Thank you. And as I understand it, this is for 30 days. And after that period, there'll be some evaluation.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Final question, which is more of a hypothetical. If we so chose, would it be possible to provide funding to the district and specifically earmark it for social emotional supports in the schools?
Well, I think that anything is possible, but let me just be very clear as I'm transitioning out. The city of Rochester, thankfully, over the last couple of years, we've been able to manage ourselves fiscally in a way that leaves the next administration with a significant amount of money. I implore you and I caution you that we as a city do not have the same amount of money that the city school district has. Actually, their budget is almost 3 times larger than the city of Rochester's budget. We serve 210,000 residents. They serve 35,000 students. We do not, I just want to be very cautious that we need to work together in partnership, but taking on the responsibility to provide these types of resources will put us in a fiscal situation that we will not be able to get out of. At the end of the day, our residents are going to want us to make sure that when they put their trash out, that it's picked up on time, that when there is a pothole in the road, that somebody is there to fill it, that when there is a fire, that we have firefighters that are there to respond, police officers to respond to different challenges, that our recreation centers and our libraries are working on time and running effectively and efficiently. I understand and I get where you're going, but I would just say that the fiscal responsibility has to be on the entity that can provide those services. The same way that we look within our budget to be able to provide the services to our residents, I believe that it's incumbent, and the district received a significant amount of funding for ARP. They have also received a significant increase in funding from the state of New York. The city of Rochester has not. And ultimately, when it comes down to social services, it is the County of Monroe that has that responsibility. I am telling you cautiously that we have been able to manage ourselves in the way that we have because of the fiscal stewardship that City Council has provided over the years, that the mayor's administration has been allowed to provide over the years. And if we start to go down this path, it is going to be a path that is going to get us into financial trouble and lead to some challenges that we are not, as a city, going to be able to get ourselves out of. Our budget is not that size of the county. It's not the size of the city school district. I think that there are other things that we can do collectively and in partnership with those other entities of government that will allow us to continue to provide services and help one another without fiscally stressing any of those institutions.
I understand totally. And, knowing that we have extra infusion of cash from the ARPA plan to recover from COVID, in the situation that the district can't or won't provide those social emotional supports, because I think I saw in a letter from the teacher union president that the district CFO was declining to provide those social emotional supports having to do with the fiscal monitor. Don't know the whole situation, but the reality is that these are our residents, these are our kids. And if we don't attend to their social emotional needs now, it's going to be a huge problem for us in the future, for our families and for our city. And so I'm really wanting to know, how can we as a city, if not through the school district, through the R centers, attend to the social emotional needs of our kids?
I think that that's where you focus on what's in your wheelhouse. And the R centers and our libraries are in our wheelhouse. And we provide the support through the Department of Recreation and Human Services that we need to provide there. We allow, the PIC team is a city team that can be called at any point in time to our residents, and we'll continue to provide that. I think that, it's going to be imperative that we provide those supports to our residents, but we cannot do it alone. I definitely think that we have to focus on the challenges of the city. They are different than the challenges of the county, but we have to make sure that we hold those people that are in charge of providing those services to the city of Rochester residents accountable. And we cannot let them off the hook just because they don't want to do it. And you can't just say, okay, well, we are going to take on that responsibility, because at the end of the day, it's not going to be, you're not going to have enough money to do that. If you continue to allow these other entities to get away with not doing their job, then it is going to become a problem for us in the future. I would say that, to your point, Councilmember Lupien, focus on what is in our wheelhouse. Provide those supports in our art centers, provide those supports in our libraries, and then work to collectively strengthen the PIC and the person in crisis team and our Pathways to Peace team and our human services resources to our residents the best that we know how, but definitely continue to hold those other entities that are supposed to be providing those services accountable.
I'd also encourage that we energize or re-energize the conversation with Monroe County. The city kids live in the county, and the county has the ability to draw on much deeper pockets than we do, and they've got responsibility for that. At one point, they were trying to abstain from their responsibility from providing school nurses. And the health department is clearly, I mean, talk about being in a wheelhouse. But I think that whole conversation with the county, people skip right from the school district to the city of Rochester. But those same kids live in the county. So we need more support there as well.
Just a comment along these lines. So look, the Rochester City School District has $197 million in ARPA funding available to them. Virtually, well, what are we looking at? Roughly 5 million less than what the city of Rochester received. And as the mayor said, you know, we're looking at serving 210,000 people. They're looking at serving 35,000 people. They certainly have the resources to do whatever they have the will to do. And I certainly encourage them to provide the social emotional services for that time when the children are in their care. But with that also being said, Councilmember Lupien and I completed an all-day training in mental health first aid offered by Commissioner Danielle Lyman Torres. This was a tremendous training that she's in the process of rolling out to all of her staff. And I would hope that the Mayor-elect Evans, I would hope that you find the time, take the time to take the course and make a thorough recommendation that all city staff that are public facing complete this course. This is a tremendous opportunity that we have to step to another level. And I would also encourage the County of Monroe to do the exact same thing. Mental health is health. We don't take it seriously in this community, not as seriously as we should. And it's not about just the work of the FIT and the PIC team to serve our people. It is about all of us in government picking up this burden and carrying it to serve each other. You know, we are our brother's keeper. And it is our duty and responsibility to help the less fortunate and to serve those in need. And we need to do that work, and we need to encourage others to do that work. But for us to take our dollars, our limited resources, and spend them in organizations and with spaces who choose not to do it when they have significant resources of their own, in my mind, is a dereliction of duty of this community, of this council, and the current administration and the incoming administration. So we have some challenges before us. We've got nothing but challenges in some days, and a whole lot of opportunity, but I hope we would step forward and pursue this opportunity.
And Madam President, if I would just say, and I know this is tangential to the conversation, you know, as chair of the Finance Committee, I would say everyone needs to look at page 1-47 in the budget book. So, when people say, oh, we got a lot of money, we got all this money, look at 1-47 in the budget book, which has our projected gaps and out years. And that always kept all of us up at night looking at that. So I just, it's very important for us to understand that our number one priority is fiscal, and 1-47 in the budget book, which is there every budget, is something that I would just urge everyone to take a look at.
Okay, we can proceed to the vote.
Yes.
Now let us vote on introductory number 419. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Abstain.
Motion carries 6-1.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 6-1 into the record, with council members Gruber and Lupian voting no, and Councilmember Harris abstaining.
Thank you. That does in fact though conclude.
Madam President, a point of privilege, please. Madam President.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. I just want to confirm through you, Madam President, this will be, I believe, Mayor Warren's last city council meeting. Is that correct? Okay,
Yes.
Madam President, the point of privilege is, first of all, I just want to say this, that just the other day, we had a privilege and an honor to see you, Madam President, be acknowledged in this community in such a magnificent way, right? With the renaming of the building down, I still call it Dries, but down on St. Paul, amazing event that some of us had the opportunity to attend. And I made a comment there when I said, I talked about oftentimes when we talk about, especially being an African-American man, born and raised in the city of Rochester, homegrown, when we talk about leadership, when we talk about qualities of people, we tend to, of course, speak to a lot of the Jim McCullough, the David Gantz, the Willie Lightfoots, the Bill Johnsons, et cetera. The list just goes on and on and on. And oftentimes we forget the women, the Black women who contributed significantly to this community, the Constance Mitchells, the yourself, and there's another one that we had before us for the last 8 years, and that's lovely Ann Warren. And I just want to say and take the time to acknowledge the fact that she's kept this city fiscally responsible. 2024 race report, real initiative, executive order 203, police accountability, reimagined our centers, worked around the clock doing multiple things, and the list can goes on and on and on and on. Has it been perfect? No, none of us are perfect. Ye without sin cast the first stone. Many of us would look back and say we've done some things that we could do differently. But overall, when you look at the work of this young lady and what she's done for this city has been outstanding. And I just wanted to say in your last meeting that I salute you, Mayor Warren, and I bid you Godspeed and what God has, and the best is yet to come for you. God bless you. Thank you, Madam President.
Well, if I was in church, I'd say amen. I'm not in church, but I'm going to say amen anyway.
Amen.
He
Amen.
speaks truth. Yes. Yes.
Well,
You've done an amazing, outstanding job. You really have. I'm so proud to have had the opportunity to work with you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment if I can on that point.
Surely.
Thank you. So, Mayor Warren, this is the last time in the city council meeting I'll be able to call you Mayor Warren, but I look forward to continuing calling you lovely and considering you my dear friend. And, the work you have done in this community the work that you and your team have done in this community is incredible. When I first came in office, one of the things that I constantly complained about and talked about were potholes in the hood, because I had the raggediest car in the world. I was always over at UNITA. I'd hit a pothole, bust a tire, $50 out my pocket. And that was like a regular thing. They knew me. It's like, hey, Mike, how you doing? Yeah, good to see you, bro. Come and get this tire. So when I think of my first council meeting, I was talking about North Goodman Street. And I was talking about how it was a raggedy, rutted, rotten piece of road. And your team made a difference. But then your team turned around and they did that work across the city in neighborhoods that never got no love. North Street was horrible forever. Hudson Avenue was horrible forever. You look around this city now, we've got streets that are not just simply paved and milled and in better shape, but Norm got these nice little concrete caps around them so that the things won't subside. And y'all did the darn thing. And in so many ways and in so many times across this community, you did the work. And I can't do anything but commend you and thank you for the good work you've done. Thank you, Mayor Warren. And Lovely, I'll be giving you a call later on too.
Okay.
Madam President, and to the members of City Council, it has been my privilege and my honor to serve alongside you. But I cannot take credit for all the work. I had a great team throughout the years that stood by me, that worked very, very hard on behalf of the citizens of Rochester, no matter what was happening on the outside. The men and women that have served the city of Rochester, all of the commissioners have done a tremendous job. And I definitely want to tell them thank you so very, very much for your hard work. I look back over the last 8 years and I cannot believe the amount of work that we were able to complete together. And the amount of work that City Council allowed us to fund and the money that flowed to every corner of the city and every part of the city because we truly care about this city. And I'll have more to say later, but having this be my last council meeting, I truly appreciate the opportunity to serve alongside you. As I mentioned earlier to Councilmember Lupien, I would just tell you all to make sure that you understand that we can't do it all. We can do some things, we cannot do all things. And the things that we choose to focus on and work on is best when we lift up the least among us, when we lift up the people that are on the bottom, the entire city rises. And we see that given the work that we have been able to do today, announcing that over 1,400 of our residents were a part of the financial empowerment centers. They saved over $1 million during the pandemic, paid off almost $800,000 in debt. That is the type of work that I implore you to continue to do. I know that I'll leave you in good hands. The deputy mayor will take over on December 1st at 11:59 p.m. And then you will get a new mayor. And I implore the citizens of Rochester and also the incoming city council and you all to support him in his work, to work alongside him, to get it done on behalf of the residents. So at the end of the day, the seat does not belong to any of us. The seat belongs to the community, and it is about the work of the people of the city of Rochester, not our own personal agendas, as we all as many people have gotten caught up in. And I know that the best is yet to come for our city. I leave you in good financial standing. I leave you in good hands. And I know that that I am, and please know that I am available to be of assistance in any way that I possibly can as you all navigate the challenges that will be before you in the next coming years.
Wonderful. This is beyond bittersweet. Sweet. I don't even know what to call it. But this does conclude our city council meeting. But I want you all to remember that we've got an entire B list, and people have the option of speaking to us as we close this meeting out. They can speak to us today after this meeting, or they can sign up to be at the top of the list coming up. So are we able to go to that now, Madam Clerk?
Sorry, I was on mute. We have to go back to the other link.
Okay.
That is correct.
Then we will close this out. I'll say good night to all of you. Thank you so much.